Welcome to your own office.
MIDAS is more an ecosystem which can actually help students envision their full potential.
If someone has to join MIDAS, what are the necessary traits that student, who can join MIDAS?
This is a very important statistics that we found that a lot of students who actually come from family businesses, the kids do not really get excited about the family business.
Strike rate in terms of either entrepreneurship or even the job placement is probably less than 10% or even a lot of them zero. So probably they are charging more than what MIDAS charges for this 1 year PGDME.
Some argue saying, the Elon Musk types, who are born, but everything is trainable, right?
Yeah.
Even he's trained himself. Not that he was not born as a
reading textbooks and teaching.
Why do you think there's a lot of gap between academia and
Piyush Goyal talked something about the entrepreneurs and startups in Startup Mahakumbh.
We are focused on food delivery apps, turning unemployed youth into cheap labor.
Partly he's right, but a lot is to do with, I think, the kind of ecosystem that the people in India need to have.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of MIDAS VenturePrep podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Sanjay Sebastian. With over 2 decades of experience in educational space, currently he heads admission at MIDAS Bengaluru. In this podcast, he speaks about what exactly is MIDAS, what is the idea of MIDAS, what are the ideal characteristics of a student that want to pursue the MIDAS PGDME, and what is the future of entrepreneurship in India. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel, as we'll be hosting many more coaches, business owners, entrepreneurs and successful business people. Let's get going. Hi Sanjay, how are you doing?
Hi Sanket, how are you?
Doing well. Welcome to your own office.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And welcome to MIDAS VenturePrep podcast.
Well, yeah, so it's quite a interesting journey because I knew one of the directors of the foundation, and when we were brainstorming in third wave, I remember the conversation. Well, at that point of time, I was sort of free comparatively, and I had a meeting with this Madan and Dhirendra, and so the idea was to nurture aspiring entrepreneurs to actually help them build a sustainable and scalable startup, which is very rarely heard of, right? I mean, a lot of students actually look at doing lack of opportunity, you could say, because they don't find the right opportunity after undergraduation. They sort of look at higher education and stuff like that. So this sort of excited me because I've primarily been into the high school space most of my career. Mm-hmm. And this got me excited, and I said, yeah, I'd love to sort of support and take this forward. So in the last 7-8 months, I think there's a lot of awareness that has gone out in helping students understand the real potential. And we always tell this to every student that it's not everybody's cup of tea. Mm-hmm. This is a very, very unique program, and it's important for you to really take an informed decision. And I think that's what we've been doing in the last few months.
Right. So actually coming to the basics, what is MIDAS and how is it different from other post-graduation degrees or post-graduation colleges?
Right. See, basically, if you have to just put it in a nutshell, I look at it this way. MIDAS is more an ecosystem which can actually help students envision their full potential. If they are really looking at entrepreneurship, this is probably a platform that actually helps them in more, not just with the idea, but per se, but it's more to do with how they get transformed over the next 1 year. So that has been very transformative thing. So the other very unique thing about the program itself is it's a 100% experiential learning program. Mm-hmm. Most of us, we all talk about the education system, the changes, the NEP that has come in, but on the ground level, there is no real implementation happening. Even today, you will find a lot of institutions focused more on theory based because the structure is designed like that. So we follow more the Gurukula system, where there's a lot of bonding between the mentors, the coaches, the students, and so the idea is to help them develop a 360-degree holistic learning about entrepreneurship. So that's what I see MIDAS as. And since it's giving an ecosystem, it solves more. It actually mitigates a lot of problems that a student had to go through if he had to do it all alone, right? I mean, because you find it's not like doing an MBA, going and taking up a job, and then do your task-based jobs and stuff like that. In entrepreneurship, is a very different game altogether. You can't even compare it to a job. So there, you will have to have a very different mindset. So creating that mindset has been pivotal in the game, right?
Yeah.
So so our focus is put all 100% on it to make the student become an entrepreneur. Build a startup. It might be small, not necessarily a unicorn kind of stuff. The idea is to slow and steadily grow. So that's been the broad objective.
Right. So if someone has to join MIDAS, what are the necessary traits in that student? Who can join MIDAS?
Quite an interesting question. Good question, actually, because a lot of times students are quite overwhelmed with the kind of choices that they have, right? If you ask any teenager if you like to do entrepreneurship, you like to be a boss of your own, and everybody loves it. I mean, when we do workshops, when we do seminars, everybody loves the idea of becoming an entrepreneur. But what they don't realize is not everybody can do it at all times, right? They need a time, a stage, a mindset, and that grit to actually move in. So what we first do with every student is to actually take them through some sort of an assessment, which helps them and us realize that they are the right fit for the program. Right? So we have an assessment that we do. We do a pre-screening round with the people. Then we have a final round of interview. So the entire process is built to actually help the student take the next move. Right? Not that everybody takes, because generally what you notice in most of our education system is you finish UG and then you just apply for a MBA, right? I mean, that's a natural progression. So unlike that, this is quite different. So we try and figure this out with the student. We talk to the parents, and we think if they feel they're the right fit for the program, then they get the offer and take up the program.
Right. Interesting. So basically, MIDAS caters to the educational needs of two kinds of people. One who wants to start their own startup, and the others who are from a family business background, but they want to go back to their family business and take it to the next level, or diversify or upscale the family business.
Right.
So how is the course different for these two categories of students? And where is it different in the course curriculum, or is it the same course?
Okay, so since you brought up this question, this is a very important statistics that we found, that a lot of students who actually come from family businesses, the kids do not really get excited about the family business. They somehow, though they have the DNA, they probably have the spirit of entrepreneurship, they really want to go out there and do something. But somewhere when it comes to family business, they don't resonate well for various reasons. It could be for family pressures, it could be people don't take him seriously or her seriously, and all of these aspects. But one thing we realize is that the student has the idea and the mindset to actually carve a niche for himself. Now, alongside, what we do is we keep this open. We don't tell them to do a startup or go to family business. That is not our objective. Our objective is to help this guy or the student to realize what his potential is, find out where he is more inclined to, right? So along the first 6 months, this is exactly what they do. And after the 6th month of the program, we sort of look at identifying whether the student wants to do a startup or whether he wants to really look at business opportunities that comes up in his family business, various aspects. A lot of students have actually done that exceptionally well. Initially it would be 8 out of 10 kids don't want to go to family business. But when the program starts, they actually understand that there's a lot of opportunity, which probably that has not happened over the last many decades, perhaps, right? So that is something that they get to explore. So they sort of brainstorm, think through, and then come out with the thing. So the second 6 months is where this cohort actually splits into one set of students whom we think is ready for the startup journey, will get into the MVP, the incubation phase, and the next 6 months go that way. And the second cohort, the second group of students who actually look at family businesses, get back to the family business and start executing. There's a roadmap laid down, and then there's a weekly milestone that they have to achieve. And so there's a lot of measured progress that happens over a period of 6 months' time.
So is MIDAS only for people who are pursuing entrepreneurship, or will there be any placement assistance that will be provided?
Okay, this is a very, very common question that, a lot of students, especially students, I would say, coming from non-business families, this is something that they really want to understand. So the answer is a little skewed in the sense that our objective of the program is to help you become an entrepreneur, which means you get a mindset of actually creating jobs. Okay, and not sit on the other side of the table where you are a job seeker. So while we do this all along, the thing that has happened is we've had very, very rare cases where students who have completed the program who have actually opted to go and work. Nothing wrong in working. I'm not against job or work, but the idea is to help them do that at excellence, right? I mean, so that is where we focus on. So if you ask me whether a student who takes up this would get a job or a placement, our effort is not to place him. Of course, there are times when students want to work with startup founder as a on the leadership roles, or perhaps in the founding teams, and all that could happen. Founder's office, yeah. But then the focus is not on giving them a placement, right? So our objective is to help them. There could be students who even get placed. I mean, they will at their own efforts will be able to get a very high profile job. In fact, one of our students works as a VP in Myntra, and such like that. So the thing is, I've realized there's a lot of these skills that is required at the leadership level is what we empower students with, which probably none of the schools do it, because as an entrepreneur, you are looking at a problem in multiple angles, not just one aspect of it. So that kind of mindset is created, and they go through a lot of hours. I think about 980 hours of training is what these guys get, and it's hands-on.
Right.
So there's a lot that these guys will do, and you will find a visible difference in a student who walks in very timid and less of confidence, but during that 1 year, these guys, the students actually get transformed. So that's something that we've noticed over the last 12 years.
So let's forget that you're part of MIDAS team for a moment. Let's say somebody is from a family business, or he or she wants to create his own startup, and his CAT scores are such that they can get a seat in an IIM or any tier 1 colleges. Would you recommend this person to join MIDAS or this tier 1 business schools, traditional business schools?
Right. So again, as I said, the entire track or the entire journey of an entrepreneur is very different from somebody who is looking out for a job. From a mindset per se, there is no doubt that a lot of our startups or unicorns have had IIMs as a part of the founding team. There have been IITians who have been as a part of the founding team, but I find there's a lot of drift that is happening in for building sustainable startups, probably even very, very large startups from tier 2 and tier 3, right? So this is not really constrained people from tier 2 and tier 3 to actually look at this kind of opportunity.
Right.
So if the student is of the mindset that he wants to build, he's passionate about, and he wants to build something, and that is the space he's looking at, definitely MIDAS would be one of the choices you should be considering, because the kind of exploration that he'll probably go through during the program is humongous. I mean, you can't compare it with the kind of thing, because most of these schools are very structured, very structured in the sense that they're focused to help you get a corporate job. I mean, that's the whole drive there, right? And that's why people do it. Nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. A lot of other things come along with it. But if the student is quite keen, because today I feel there's a lot of opportunity in the entrepreneurship space. People are still realizing it. When we started way back in 2012, I guess, Professor Parag Shah started the MIDAS School of Entrepreneurship, and that time it was hardly a name, right?
Yeah.
Hardly people knew about entrepreneurship. But today I see a lot of kids, surprisingly, even at 14, 15 years, I get to see some students who really want to do some startup, and they are aware of it. The only thing that they probably lack is the kind of guidance, mentoring, ecosystem, support, to help them mitigate the kind of risk that they take. So the question is that if the student is keen on entrepreneurship, definitely he should explore this, because sky is the limit, or beyond sky is the limit, right? There's more to entrepreneurship.
Right.
Else, if he's more of those safety net kind of guys who wants to ensure that he has his job security, who's not a risk taker kind of personality, which is why I said we do this test. We do the assessment to help him understand. The idea is to help him take the decision, right? So, so that will probably help him decide on whether he should take this or.
So now the VenturePrep flagship course offered by MIDAS is now a PGDME, post-graduation
that's right.
certification in management and entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So how does this add value to a student's career, his profile, and how will it help in his journey?
Okay. If I'm correct, I think we are the first school to come under the VTO accredited PG program under the entrepreneurship experiential learning module. One thing that I understand is that right from the top hierarchy, right from the vice chancellors and the ministers and the people up there driving, they all understand entrepreneurship is an essential, a fundamental thing of a nation's growth, right? I mean, that's one thing that is given. Everybody understands it. So today, with a lot of challenges in the job scenario, and of course, it was quite unprecedented because we don't know how AI is going to span out. There's a lot of displacement of jobs. People have to be skilled. So while that is all happening, this is one space I feel students would be able to discover their passion and then provide a solution or to a particular problem that they're very passionate about. Not necessarily to sort of make it unicorn or so, but the idea is to help cater to a problem which they are really passionate, and that's what takes them forward. So one thing that we have found is when students know that this is the PGDME, right? Somewhere behind the mind they feel, okay, it's an equivalent to an MBA, so certification. Even today I feel a lot of people, especially parents, want the kids to have that as a safety net kind of thing. So that is what we see quite often with parents. So this is one thing that the students can be say that I'm sort of covered, right? So PGDME would help them.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, I think more than that, they should really focus on the skills that they get in the program, right? That this is of course a peripheral thing that will sort of take care of in case for some reason the student wants to go and find a job for himself. He can always say that he's a PG holder, he's a postgraduate holder, and something like an equivalent to an MBA, right? So that's so that of course gives them an edge to actually take a decision. And the thing is, because we are also doing this, a lot of students ask us whether they get loans, and that because generally that's what happens in higher education. They want to pick up loans. So since we are tied up with about 2 or 3 partners who actually NBFCs and banks, they also get this option to sort of pay this over a period of 3 years, 2-3 years kind of thing. So so in that sense, yes, and the ticket price is not too much compared to some of the entrepreneurship schools that I've heard, right? So we are actually a foundation, which means we are a not-for-profit organization, and the objective is to help students become entrepreneurs, create entrepreneurs, and we've been doing it for 12 years. So we've really learned the art, science, math of actually getting these guys do it in a very structured manner, and that's what we've been really following. In fact, PGDM happened very recently. Right?
Yeah.
So students who are really looking at, can I start something on my own, while I also want to get some sort of an accreditation, and certificate, then this is one of the programs that he can probably look at.
Yeah, talking about the fee aspect, actually.
Yeah.
One thing is, this is run by a foundation.
Yeah.
And it's probably 3-4 times lesser than other entrepreneurship programs.
Right. Yeah.
And one thing that kind of interests me is even, state level normal colleges that offer MBA via PGCET or many other things, whose strike rate in terms of either entrepreneurship or even the job placements is probably less than 10% or even a lot of them zero. So probably they are charging more than what MIDAS charges for this 1-year PGDME course, because it's a 2-year course.
Right.
And if you calculate from 1-year perspective, this works out even better.
Absolutely. So one thing that we have consciously kept it to a point that can be sort of affordable. At the same time, we want students to take, because see, even honestly, between you and us, we know that even if a student does an MBA in a particular college, there is still uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
The college not necessarily guarantee you a CTC, and many of the students who say that, I paid 10 lakhs, 20 lakhs for college, and they say placed, but their ROI is not there. They'll probably get 5 lakhs CTC, 6 lakhs, and they're happy.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just a tick in the list, right, saying that it's placed. But on the contrary, our thing is, that's why I said we won't really compare the program we offer with an MBA, because the entire mindset changes. Right? The entire mindset is quite different. Here, the idea is to look at somebody who can sort of create jobs, right? And once you become a founder, you cannot run it all by yourself. You have to have a team. You will recruit and you will contribute to the nation's growth in some sense, right? So. Whereas on the other hand, you notice job seekers' mindset is very different, which is why I said, unless we really understand the student who wants to take up this program, they will be the right fit for taking it. As a thing.
And looking at our strike rate, probably we can, for the practical purposes, we can say it's more than 99%, because everybody who has gone through the course has come out as an entrepreneur.
Yes, barring maybe 3-4 kids, who have really,
kids.
Out of this. So the thing is, that's why I said, in fact, there's a lot of debate on whether, entrepreneurs can be created, right? That's a big thing that happens, Some argue saying, no, the Elon Musk types, who are born thing, but everything is trainable, right? Even he's trained himself. It's not that he was not born as it. So the thing is, there is a lot to do with how this has to be tweaked. And apparently our education system has sort of failed students to really get the entrepreneurial mindset. It's actually probably a life skill, I would say, which has to be incorporated right from the school. Of course, NEP talks about it, but that's something that was missing, right? So, so the way we have designed it, every year we sort of tweak, we evolve the module in a way that is sort of adaptable and meant for that age. So a lot of students who come from family businesses have started their own startups. And one very unique thing that I want to highlight is that this is not just come with an idea and we'll sort of mentor you and things. This is, in fact, I would say 2 steps behind the idea to actually map your personality with the idea that you generate.
Right.
Definitely. So there's a lot to do with, because ultimately that's your fuel, that passion that you come with and you are happy with it. Because I find a lot of engineers who did engineering and then they sort of pivoted and started their startup with a completely different new area, right? So that only showed that they were passionate about it. It's just that engineering happened to be a chance, kind of. It was not a choice.
It is interesting that you spoke about how the curriculum tweaks itself to match the current trend or whatever is happening in the industry. Because I think one major factor that plays out here is these are the coaches who come here and who train students or who coach students are not again professors who read textbooks and come. They're having their own startup or firm in this field, and they come and teach you. So
at least 2 or 3 businesses they have managed and headed founders of at least two,
Yeah.
three startups, because the kind of learning that you get, the cumulative learning that you can get from these guys are humongous. I mean,
Yes.
probably that is not available in the colleges.
Yeah,
So,
and it's very natural that they adapt the trends and come and teach
Absolutely,
here because
yes.
they do it every day.
yeah,
For example,
exactly.
last week the digital marketing coach was here,
Yeah.
and he has his own digital marketing firm.
Right,
So
right.
it's not, he's not a professor in a university
Yeah.
reading textbooks and teaching digital
Why do you
marketing.
think there's a lot of gap between academia and industry? Even
Yeah.
today, we're not able to bridge it.
Yeah.
That's simply because we need more of people from the industry taking sessions. Apparently, that somewhere that is
That connection between industry and academics.
Yes, there's a big gap. So how do we actually fix this? By actually getting people on the industry. And industry people don't really want to work unless it makes sense to them. And
Yeah.
probably it's a good thing, but I think government is taking a lot of initiative to get people from industry to work with colleges, but it's still in the paper but not really implemented well.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's of course a very valid point, where students get to learn from the people who have been there and done that.
Yeah,
So that
yeah.
makes a lot of difference.
Still doing that, actually.
Yeah, still doing that.
Yeah.
That's right.
So actually, I mean, recently when I was speaking to someone, I was using this term called, we are like a factory for entrepreneurs. And factory looks like it doesn't have a very positive PR around it. Factory education cannot be a factory.
Yeah.
But if you look at that, input are students, output are entrepreneurs, and with a strike rate of more than 99%.
Yeah.
So actually, we are a factory, though we don't like to say that. I mean,
the factory is more like a misnomer. I mean, sounds like very structured. So in the sense that we do a lot of filtering to see and identify and help students, because as I said, you could have a student who's just 14 years, who's a kid who's 14 years running a 100 crore company. A boy actually in Maharashtra runs a 100 crore company. He's one of the youngest entrepreneurs, right? You also have a guy like 60, 70 years building a unicorn. So the question is, entrepreneurship can be done at any age, but for every person, it's at a different time, with the kind of confidence, with the kind of conviction, with the kind of mindset that they come with. So that's true.
Right. So when is the next batch starting? And if somebody watching this podcast or who come across MIDAS online, what are the steps for admission? What is the flow?
Okay, so our next cohort is on in the month of July. So we have started with the admissions sometime. We have generally the rolling admission, so people apply for the program about a couple of months back, and then we do a assessment, we do an interview, and then we sort of roll out the offer. So all that they have to do is just connect with us, connect with our team, take the assessment, of course apply first and then take the assessment.
How to apply?
So there is a link that is provided by the admissions team. So when they connect with us on email or on WhatsApp or our
so
office
the
numbers.
Initial application, they can go to www.midasb.in and
yes, they can do that there.
Okay,
yes, they can register there, and once the admission counselor speaks to them, and gives them a little more information about the program, then they can take the assessment. Once the assessment is done, then they move to the discussion round, where we often ask parents and students to join for that session, because there could be a lot of things that they want to ask, right? I mean, it's not just the student taking up the program, especially because even they come from family businesses. So they do that. And then, of course, a lot of our alumni are there. They could get connected with them, speak to some of them, and then take an informed decision in taking up the program.
So actually now the world is driven by AI and automation and whatnot.
Right.
So how is MIDAS, future-proofing students for this?
I think a big thing for students to really realize at this point of time is to actually embrace entrepreneurship. Okay, because this is one place that requires students to become more creative, critical thinking. A lot of these skills that they have probably not really, worked on, the last many years, they get to do that in the program, which is why I said this is quite a different approach. The program itself is quite different. We help them learn creativity, because today in many of our schools, there's hardly anything around creativity or critical thinking, and those are skills that is essential. In fact, I think the top three skills, by some of the CEOs when they did the survey was, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, all these. So, and that is what exactly happens in MIDAS. So, in one sense, I think if a student does the program and he's able to kickstart, a sort of a startup by himself, then he's good to go, because he would have already found a problem and he'll be solving it. And normally, a student who moves into this path actually goes ahead and becomes a serial entrepreneur, right? Meaning, it's not that he's just happy with this one passion, because passions evolve, right? Today passions are different from maybe 5 years down the line or 7 years down the line. So you generally evolve, and that path is and you can be an entrepreneur even at 80 or 90. So nothing stopping you. While that happens, you are learning a lot of things, which probably does not happen in any other program, because here the learning is 360. If you ask me, should an entrepreneur learn recruitment? Yeah, absolutely. He should know hiring. He should know operations. He should know sales. He should know sales is a fundamental thing. A lot of people talk not very good at sales, and I think the sales is a very critical part or component of any business, right? Every CEO you see is very convicted with a passion to actually go out and sell. Right? So these are skills for life. So while they are doing all of this, I think they will easily find a way to survive in the future. So we don't see that as a risky proposition. While of course it's important to take it with a pinch of salt, with AI revolution coming in and a lot of unprecedented times that is coming in, a lot of displacement of jobs. So that thinking has to start today. So
talking about selling, actually, this reminded me of this 3-day challenge that happened just 2 weeks ago, where our students made buttermilk, masala buttermilk.
Right.
And probably we handed over them 500 rupees note for each group.
That's
and
right. Yeah.
The winning group probably made 2,400 rupees around that. They sold about 250 buttermilks in a matter of 2 days.
Yeah.
So how to learn sales? You sell.
You actually sell. Yeah. So that's why I said experiential learning is something that you actually do it. Unless you do it, no theory will work around it.
Yeah.
You might think a lot in your head, but getting it executed on the ground and pivoting at the right time, right? It's good that you brought this out. There are students who have lost the 500 bucks. There are also students who have made up to 1 lakh plus in 3 days time. So so the learning becomes very different. What is that guy who made that 1 lakh in 3 days? How did he pivot? What did he go with plan, right? And how did he make the changes? What made him do the changes? All these things, is something that's critical for while they brainstorm and come out with strategies.
So how do you see entrepreneurial, for the lack of better terms, market in India? Do you think the future is bright? Do you think a lot of entrepreneurs coming up in India?
See, I think there is a lot of movement, including the government. Right? I mean, we are talking about some 1.5 lakh 8 startups at the moment, and the ministers, the government wants it to move to 10 lakh in the next decade. So while there is a lot of movement in that direction, a lot of people also find failure as a very, very important aspect. It's not very easy to handle failures, right? So this is exactly where I think we help students to mitigate the kind of risk that they can take otherwise. And honestly, we have done a lot of workshops, seminars. Many of them are interested in entrepreneurship. Probably not today. That's because they're not sure. They're not really sure. But if you ask generally, would you like, one common thing that I get to hear is, why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Big money, right? But that is not the drive. That is exactly where these guys miss out on the opportunity.
Who should become an entrepreneur?
Somebody who is passionate about solving a particular problem, any problem, right? Anything that is impactful, that is passionate and close to his heart. Because generally, as human beings, we resonate with problems. We see problems. Some of them actually go ahead and want to solve it. Majority of them will sort of be insensitive to it, right? They think it's a problem and leave it there. So the guys who have the passion to go out and commercialize that problem, because otherwise there's nobody else doing it, right? Either you do it or somebody else will do it. So who have that mindset are the people who will probably get there.
Yeah. So recently, I mean, just the last week, this was the number one trending news in the nation, that Piyush Goyal ji talked something about entrepreneurs and startups in Startup Mahakumbh. So he said, at least one thing he said is, about the food delivery startups and other things where you're using unskilled labors among the Indian youth, and actually you're keeping them unskilled so that the rich can eat in their homes without stepping out. That was the famous thing he said. And another thing he said is, some of the billionaire kids that he knows, they are trying to make some vegan ice creams, vegan cookies, and all this, instead of spending on um, the futuristic innovative technologies like AI chips and whatnot, machine learning, whatnot. So I mean, these are the two remarks that heavily trended. There are pros,
There's a lot of
cons.
backlash
Yeah.
for him saying that, but in some sense, partly he's right, but a lot is to do with I think the kind of ecosystem that the people in India need to have, right? I mean, you can't really compare it with China or US because the ecosystem there is different, right? There's a lot of challenges for a startup founder, in terms of provisions, the kind of movement, even as simple as maybe registering a company, right? So, so while that is not so favorable for a startup founder, if the government actually moves to actually get the ecosystem meant meaningful for startup founders, then I think it would be a game changer. While of course I also read articles where a lot of them are doing very general, startup has become a fad rather than really solving impactful problems, which is why I said the one has to really think through on how we are going to solve the problem. Okay, it might not be the first idea that comes to your mind or the first solution that comes to your mind, and not even be the second idea. They call it the rule of three, where you actually brainstorm and come up with, most likely the third solution will be your better solution. So I'm saying a lot of students or the aspirants look for what are the business opportunities. While that, of course, that's good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with looking at a business opportunity and moving in there, but to really create an impact and put your heart there with that passion, that requires a lot of self-discovery, to understand what your passion is. So yeah, I think there is backlash. There is there's a good side to it. At least the guys like Septo and all. I mean, you said there are unskilled laborers who are working for these guys. There are sometimes BCom graduates are doing Swiggy delivery and all because they get better salary there, right? Better, sometimes even better remuneration, compared to a regular job. So yeah, so there is that that issue which has to be addressed.
So
together.
MIDAS focuses on making entrepreneurs who can build lean startups, or does MIDAS focus on raising funds and making it a...
Well, as an ecosystem, we have a provision where the students go out and pitch. We have investors, we have angel investors, we have VCs, all as a part of the ecosystem. But our objective here is to actually help them do it bootstrapped, ideally, with the minimal resources and keep it the lean startup way, right? Because I think the essential part of the startup culture has been more with funding. While funding is necessary at some stage in point, because we can't scale, right? You need it, but we believe in starting it small, right? And that is where we really focus on. And a lot of our students have managed to keep it bootstrapped. While there is, of course, a component to go ahead and pitch with the VCs and up to Series A. These guys can get, there are seed funds, internal seed funds that we have, and all of that is there. But it's to help the student show that he's passionate about a startup and show, have his skin in the game, right? I mean, you need to show that evidence, right? So once you are making some sort of a revenue, then the equations change, then the equity changes, then the funding also will change, right? So today VCs are really looking at somebody who they bet only on a founder, right? His conviction more, and while they do their due diligence, it's purely on the founder's conviction and the kind of way he's, so those are things that needs to be thought through.
Yeah. So probably the last question for the day. So what do you tell to these parents who are a little, let's say a little hesitant about sending their children to something like MIDAS instead of a traditional B school or a management education?
So one thing that we understand is there are two kinds of parents, because we have two types of students who come into the program. One is family business children, family. There, I don't think family business parents have any issue. In fact, they're more than happy to actually help students take up the program, because they get all the skills and it's so personally curated for that particular business. So it is like helping the student to actually hand over the thing, right? I mean, so there's a lot of work that is done towards that side. So that part, parents are in fact more than happy. The second part of parents, the second group of parents who actually have kids who of course are working professionals and who probably, as you said, don't want, a little hesitant, apprehensive about taking such a program. One thing that they really often look for is certification, which means that is one thing that's on the mind. What is the certification? What is the validation? Which of course we are PGDME and equivalent to an MBA. So that is one thing. Second thing is, of course, the program is designed in a way that if the student is selected into the program, it will be fulfilling his actual passion. So technically, I think as a parent, you will be more than happy to support your child, provided he is wanting to be an aspiring entrepreneur and there is an ecosystem that is going to help him get there. Right. So they are certainly sure and they're very happy, right? And there's no two ways about it. The one thing that they might have behind the back of the mind is that whether, what in case, right? This is what if in case the startup doesn't work, and possibilities, right? So if that is also considered, he still is equally or more qualified than a regular MBA graduate, because he's earned all the skills that is required for him to go out there and find an opportunity.
Yeah.
So that way, in terms of a job concern also, I feel he's sorted. But the whole purpose, as I said, is to help him discover himself, because jobs become so after a point of time, you notice that it's sort of, there's a burnout feeling, right? I mean, doing the same thing, because not close to your heart. And so I think this is where the world has to move. Try to find out something that's very close to your heart, what you're passionate about, and then move it. And the third aspect is, of course, certainly it will help him go further in his career, there's no doubt. And the third aspect is that this is probably half the time that a normal student would spend in the B school, right? I mean, while you do a 2-year program, you're doing a 1-year program, end-to-end, idea to your startup, right? I mean, end-to-end.
Right.
So, and everything, I mean, everything through, right? Everything A to Z of a, a startup.
Product.
Yeah. So technically, this kind of support that these guys are getting is something that is what was not heard probably a few years back. I mean, they didn't have that kind of support.
Yeah.
It's not like training you for a job or thing. So it's your own startup, and we are there to sort of support you. So all that risk that a student would have taken otherwise is now sort of mitigated by the kind of ecosystem that MIDAS is providing. So I think they are, in some sense, I think they are sorted. Of course, one more query that comes from parents is whether we have this loan option and all that. So that is also a thing that we have tied up with banks, IBFCs, banks and NBFCs, where they get this EMI over a period of 24 months, 36 months, and all of that. So if they can take a risk with an MBA, I think they should certainly take a risk with an entrepreneurship school. Absolutely.
Yeah, you have both ways to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Great, wonderful. It was wonderful hosting you.
Hey, pleasure me.
In your own office.
In our own office. Okay.